Hello my friends, welcome back to another tutorial. My eyes are very red because I got something stuck in one of my eyes and it was rubbing. So I think a bit of grit or something got into my eye, so it's very red and watery. I apologise. It's very sore. But I'm going to knuckle down and I'm going to get into a nice painting for you. This week I'm thinking something that I really liked. I came across this on, I think it was Pixie Bay. I found this image. It's a forest, a lovely forest scene with a pathway going through the forest and lots of light coming through the trees and kind of a very lit kind of a footpath with some shadows being cast. It's really eye-catching, some really lovely colouring and some really fantastic mixing in this. We're going to learn to mix lots and lots of different colours, okay? So a very broad palette. It will be a two-part tutorial because I'm painting this on a 20 by 16 canvas primed, and what I'm going to do before I paint is I'm going to give the canvas a coat of this linseed oil. Okay, you can see it, it's just regular linseed oil. I'll take some tissue, dab it on the tissue, and I'm going to give it a very quick coat on my canvas. Okay, it's probably similar to liquid clear. The thing with the linseed oil is it'll probably kind of start to soak just slightly into the canvas, so it won't be very slippery and very oily, but it will give us a really nice base, a really nice soft base to work on, so the colours will mix lovely together and it won't be overly wet. Do you understand? So that's why I use linseed oil on its own. So, and then I mix this with my thinners for my medium. Okay, so I mix this with some turpentine for my medium to paint, to thin my paints. So that's what we're going to do this week. Today is my daughter's birthday. She's 11. Ava is 11 years old today. How the years have gone by. It's amazing, isn't it? They just, boom, they're gone. 11 years, just like that. It's just amazing. And it just shows you that life is so precious. You have to enjoy every single day that you're here. You really do. And it was my mother's anniversary yesterday as well. Thank you to everyone who gave me my mother's sympathy and best wishes yesterday on Facebook. Thank you all for that. It really means a lot. So a very kind of turbulent couple of days, but I'm really itching to get into this lovely painting now. It's a beautiful sunny day outside and something is just telling me, you know, let's get a bit of painting done. Let's have a bit of fun with this. So don't go anywhere. Get your paints ready if you want to follow me along. Lots of colours. I'll try to simplify it, but I want to really make a really nice painting as well at the same time. So if you're more advanced, you know, more advanced than the amateur, this one is for you, okay? But if you're a beginner as well, you're going to learn a lot from this. Basic techniques, painting simple trees, getting some depth and distance and mist into your paintings. So we'll try it. I can't promise anything. I hope it turns out nice, but I'm eager to try it anyway, and we'll see what it looks like. So thank you very much for joining me. Don't go anywhere. Okay, here we go. Now, let me just roll up my sleeves a little here. And this is my canvas. It's a blank canvas. I don't want to put any major pencil lines on this right now, because if I'm putting my linseed oil on there, it's going to rub all my pencil marks out and kind of make a mess on my canvas. So I'm just going to put one or two. All I'm going to put is the footpath, okay? Let's go up. It's slightly below halfway, okay? So let's just put a little dot there, and the footpath kind of comes around like that, and it goes off then into this side here, and it comes like that down, just in a slight kind of a curve, and it sort of turns very suddenly and disappears up there, doesn't it? So I'm just going to let it disappear like that. That's just a very rough line. That's all we need, okay? It's just to suggest. There we go, like that. Put kind of the bank down like that, and this bank then sort of just disappears, and that's it. That's all I need to do right now. I'm going to take, oh yeah, my apologies, I better tell you what colours I have. And my Naples yellow is slipping down my paper palette. I have a paper palette that's what I use. Okay. Traditionally, I do use a timber palette when I'm painting myself, but for the purpose of the tutorial, it's just a white paper palette, okay? I have titanium white, Naples yellow, a little cadmium yellow, some cobalt blue, some cadmium red, alizarin crimson, burnt sienna, burnt umber, a little phaylo blue, and a little black, okay? Those are my colours. I primed my canvas once with a water-based undercoat, thinned with water. I do sometimes put a little touch of PVA glue or PVA sealer into the white mix, and that just kind of seals the canvas a little better. And then I rub it lightly with some sandpaper, okay? So it's nice and soft and smooth. Now I'm going to take my linseed oil and I'm simply going to give the top of this a nice coat of linseed oil, okay? It's just regular linseed oil bought in a craft store. And this really is just to sort of take the dryness out of the canvas and allow my colours to mix nicely on the canvas together, because I don't want them kind of soaking into the canvas grain too much, especially for this lovely kind of misty background, because there's some lovely soft pastel colours in there, isn't there? So I don't want to be struggling with blending today. All right. I like using thin mixes, and I know a lot of people will put a lot of thick paint on so they can blend colours together, but then you end up with a lot of thick paint on your canvas, and I don't like that. It's just too messy for me. Now, so you can see I put a very light coat up there, alright? Let me just double check now. That's still recording. I have to make sure my camera is recording. I'm on my phone today, just trying that. I have a cup of coffee here as well. Good morning, everyone. Okay, I'm going to take my large stubby brush, alright? And if you want these, just let me know. I can send a set to you. My large stubby brush, very soft synthetic hair. Let's dampen that. I have thinners. Okay, look. Just a little drop of thinners with tiny amount of linseed oil in there as well. And let's just take the excess off the brush so it's not soaking wet. Now, colours. When you're starting something like this, what I tend to do is I block out all my trees out of my head, okay? All I'm focusing on is the colour. I'm not focusing on what's there and what's there. I can see there's lots of trees there, but I'm emptying my mind of the trees completely, and I'm focusing on that glow right in the centre. Now, it's like a pinkish yellow, isn't it? Let's get some Naples yellow on our brush. And I'm going to take a hint of crimson, okay? Now, you could try cadmium red if you wanted, but that might warm it a little too much. The pink in this will give you lovely distance and depth. It's a very pastel kind of a shade. And the Naples yellow, you see, it's very thick and chalky. So that will give you a lovely pastel kind of a hue. A little more pink in there. And we end up with a lovely peachy kind of a salmon tone. Oh, look at that. That's lovely. Now, it's a little bit wet for me. So I'm going to add more paint. And a little more crimson there into that. And I'm going to just start in the centre. And I want to get this nice glow in here first, okay? Now my surface is nice and slippery, but it's not over oily, okay? It's not over oiled. It's not too slippery. I'm going to just leave it like that for a moment, and I'm going to start putting more pink into it, because if you look closely at the reference photograph, it's a kind of a yellow in the centre, but then it's kind of a pink, a very light pink around it, isn't there? So some crimson and some white mixed into this colour that we already mixed, look. And let's go around the outside of that with that lovely crimson colour, okay? And I'm going to soften it backwards. And then gently soften it through the yellow here and there. Because I don't want a solid line going around. I want it to sort of merge together, okay? It's all merging together nicely. And you can even go across it just as if you're holding a feather. I'm going to soften these colours kind of together slightly. Look, lovely, look at that. And don't worry about losing that brightness in the centre. I'm putting more in there in just a moment, okay? So we have that. I'm going to bring that colour down into the footpath as well, I think. So Naples yellow, a little white and a little crimson. So I'm going to bring that colour down into my footpath as well, because I can see there's lots of pinks in this, and even go through some of your greens as well, look. Now, so that's that done. Soften that together again. The next thing I want to do is give my brush a good dry on some tissue, and I want to just put a little amount of brightness in there, okay? I'm going to take a little cadmium yellow, pale, and lots of white. Again, it's a dry brush, okay? I'm just using a tiny, tiny amount of paint in here. Tiny. Because it's just for the centre here, look. And I'm just going to kind of soften that in. And as I go, I'm going to add more and more white. And again, dry your brush, back into your yellow, back into your white. And I'm just, what I'm doing is, I am looking at, I can see there's a dark outline of a tree. So I'm not going to go right past that, because I want to keep this nice dark side. So I'm imagining that's the tree trunk there, okay? And I'm just putting that loosely in there. You could even soften it downwards a little if you like. So I'm really going to be taking my time now focusing on this. Let me just have a quick look here. Yeah, that's not bad. I really want to take my time on this and do it nice. I'm going to take some cadmium yellow and I'm going to pop a hint of that just in here and there. Then clean your brush, then take some white and pop some white in and mix them on the canvas, look. Now that's even enough. It's only kind of more or less in one place, isn't it? I might even take a smaller brush and pop a very thick, bright, whitey yellow just in the centre where it really, really, really pops, okay? See, it's just a little here and there, right in the centre. And then I'll go with maybe just white on its own. The small brush gives you that little bit more control, okay? Just that little bit more. And there we go. Now, I'm going to leave that, and I'm going to continue on my outside here. So we're going into mauves and greys coming out of here. So I'm going to first start with my pinky colour. I'm going to mix some pink, so some crimson, a little Naples yellow, lots of white. So those three colours, a little amount of turpentine just to help it move. Now I'm just going to continue this first, right? Just so I'm not going for a completely sharp line of different colour. I'm going to soften that, bring that in even, soften the yellow outwards. So look, we're making a lovely mix of colours here now. And then I'm going to start changing the tones of this now. I'm going to start going for more of a neutral colour. So I'm going to add some cobalt blue into this. And basically what I'm going to do is just crimson with cobalt blue and lots of white, okay? So I haven't put too much cobalt blue into this just yet. All right, it's more on the warm side of mauve. So there's a bit more pink in this mixture. And I'm going to start just cooling the colour as it comes outwards then, you see, okay? So we're now going into more of a cool colour. So I'm going to dampen my brush again. I haven't cleaned it. I'll take more cobalt blue. And cobalt blue is very, very forgiving in that you can use a lot of it and it won't overpower your painting. So a little bit of crimson into the cobalt blue. So you can see now it's getting more and more into the blue colours. More blue. Let's try a hint of cadmium red actually. That'll give us a nice colour as well. Oh, that's quite nice, isn't it? Now I want to lighten it slightly. It's a little bit rich for me, as you can see from the reference photograph. So just pick up a lot of white, okay? And I might add a tiny hint of black, and that will just neutralize the colour slightly. You see, it just. In fact, let's take a hint of brown. Look, tiny hint of burnt umber. That will neutralize the blue. It'll just stop the blue from being too overpowering. Now let's bring that colour right down here on the left hand side, okay, over that pink, and you can see then the way it's softening together into the pink, and you're getting some lovely tones, lovely warm and cool colours. I'm going to soften very gently into the pink here. I'm going to avoid the yellow, okay? Try not to bring your blue over into the yellow too much, because you'll get a greeny colour, and I don't see any green on the reference photograph, so I want to keep it that way. I don't want to get my colours going muddy. So you can see I'm sort of flicking the colour together. Then it comes up here, it gets very bright, doesn't it? It's almost just like a white, I suppose, on its own. Let's just go into white. Maybe a hint of cobalt. Okay, so white and a hint of cobalt. That'll give us a nice bright colour. And the oily surface on the canvas is really helping. It's not overly oily, it's not too slippery, but I can see it now. It's just giving a beautiful shine to the paint, and it's really helping the colours flow on the canvas. That's fantastic. If this was just a regular kind of a dry canvas and it wasn't oiled, it would be very difficult to get all these lovely soft colours mixing together. Even though it's on a dry canvas, and even though it is oil paint which stays wet, it wouldn't be as nice and slippery as this right now. So we have, let me just stand back now. Always stand back and take a look. That's not bad at all. That's not bad. Those colours are nice and rich. Okay. Now, this is pretty much in darkness, so I'm going to put kind of a dark greeny brown colour up here. I'm going to take some black, and I'm going to take a hint of yellow, and I'm going to take some cobalt blue, okay? So it's a bluey grey, you see that? A bluey grey kind of a green. A little bit more yellow and a little bit more blue. It's just to fill in the background of this, really, that's all. And it's going to soften across into that lovely light colour, you see, and I'm just using the tip of my brush to kind of gently kind of soften it across. As it comes down into the pink, I'm going to start adding more red to the mix, so a little bit of cadmium red into that colour, and that'll help soften it into the pink that bit better then, you see, look. It helps it merge into the pink without being too contrasting. Does that make sense? And look, let's add a little bit up there. And you could even come across and even suggest some of the darkness from the trees over here, okay? So I'm just kind of scrubbing it and giving it some random kind of shapes. But do remember, a lot of this is going to be covered with trees. So I'm not too worried, you know what I mean? You know, we've all trees going through this. So let me just go up here now and just sort of taper that out slightly. And what I'm going to do then is take a soft brush, okay? Nice soft blender brush, look. And I'm going to soften, start with the middle. And then I'm going to just kind of soften the colours together here and there, okay? Around that. Softening them back into the canvas. Losing your marks slightly. There we go. You don't have to get rid of them completely, but just to create that kind of misty feeling, that's all I want. Alright? Now, The next thing I want to do while the canvas is wet, and it's very important to do all these things while the canvas is wet. Those misty trees in the background, that kind of thing. I'm going to start with those ones right in the middle. You see those? I think they're absolutely gorgeous. They really are. So I'm going to start with those. I'm going to take another brush. Let me get a nice brush. I have a couple of round brushes. I'm going to take my small detail brush and I'm going to take a slightly larger, rounder brush. Let me find a nice one. I need to find a nice brush here now, okay? We have so many to choose from. We really do. Some of them are slightly hard, some are okay. A nice soft round brush. This is the number 3. I'll start with number 3. Give it a wipe on our tissue with some turpentine. And let's go down and get that nice warm colour. I'm going to do just a stronger shade of that peach that we had. Let's even try a little bit of cadmium yellow with crimson and naples yellow. So it's just a stronger, slightly stronger shade, a richer mix, that's all. And you don't want too much crimson in this. There's a lot of yellow, natural yellow in this colour. And I'm making this thick, okay? Nice and thick because it's going to mix into that colour which is already there. Now let me try this. It's a kind of an ochre-y orange. So I'm adding plenty of Naples yellow into this. Let's have a look. Let's try this colour and see. Now again, you know, I don't want to copy the reference exactly. I do want to make this my own. So I'm not copying it exactly, okay? And you can see it's mixing into the yellow then quite quickly, isn't it? That's absolutely fine. Let's just go up there and let that disappear up into the trees overhead. And we've one coming off of this there like that. Nice thick tree trunks, and we could even put in the little hedging and stuff like that at the base over there. And the thing about these trees in the center is they go from a warm color kind of up to a cool color. So then I'm going to mix a little. Let me just clean my brush. I'm going to mix then a little mauve. So I'm going to take some cobalt blue, a little crimson, but a lot more crimson in this, okay? It's a kind of a plummy, pinky plum. It goes from this colour up to this kind of soft plum. So I'm going to try that. Let's add a little bit of purple in here, and then it kind of goes up into this lovely soft colour because it's kind of going up into the shadows overhead. Does that make sense? And even down here has a little bit of that tone. Mix that through the orange just here and there. Right, so I don't have to go any further than that, really. I'm then going to take a small pointy brush, little detailed brush, okay? Nice small detailed brush. And let's get some of this colour first. Plenty of thinners, and I just want to give this some nice branches up there into the canopy. I'll take a little bit of that softer mauve at the base. I'm making it slightly stronger at the base, okay? Only so it stands out that little bit better. That's all. And don't worry about painting all of little twigs and branches up high, okay? This is only just a suggestion. This is going to be misty now. It's going to be off in the distance, and you're not going to see very much, because if I take my soft brush, okay, and I very softly just go over it like this, tapping it and gently rubbing it out, you can see it then becomes nice and misty, doesn't it? And then you can even soften these up into the canopy overhead as well, look. And they all kind of disappear. Isn't that lovely? So we already have this lovely, soft, misty feeling in the centre of our painting. Lovely, I like that. So the next step then basically is to start adding some of the stronger trees. The trees here are just very kind of soft, warm greys. So I'm going to take some of this mauve with some of the pink, and I might take a hint of black into some of that. So we have a dark, it's a warm kind of a grey. So let me just try some of these now, look. That's quite nice, isn't it? And you need to be careful not to use too much thinners in this, because even that now is too watery for me. And the reason is, if you make it too watery, it's going to be difficult to blend it with your blender brush. You see? So I'm not making it too watery. I'm going to add more paint. If you feel it's too watery, just add a little more paint. Okay, now I'm rubbing some off with my brush because I picked up too much. Let's take some crimson, some black, some brown. Maybe try a touch cadmium red in there, just to keep it warm. And then, to make it nice and soft and pastel-y, a little Naples yellow, okay? So now you can see we have this beautiful, soft kind of a grey colour. And I'm only just very loosely suggesting these ones in the background because we're going to have a lot of foliage covering these. You could use the same colour for this one here, this nice big rich tree. This one is slightly greener, so I'm going to take a hint of Naples yellow and a tiny hint of cadmium yellow for that, and that just greens the colour ever so slightly then, you see. Isn't that lovely? So now this dark colour pushes everything else off into the distance, creating even more depth in your painting. So I'm going to go up here now and I'm going to just give this a lovely thick branch that comes out and goes in, doesn't it? Isn't that, I love that, that's really nice. And just pick up plenty of paint, add a little bit more thinners if you feel it needs it. And allow that to go off. It's a very thick tree, but there's lots of thick branches coming off of it, isn't there? So I'm just kind of playing around with this now myself. I'm not necessarily copying exactly what's on the reference photograph. I'm just adding my own little marks in there as well, which is good. And that little touch of green really helps. It just adds to the kind of foresty feel of the painting. And then it kind of goes up and everything then sort of just merges together at the very top, doesn't it? So what you can do then is even get some darker colour. Let's take some black, some cadmium yellow, cobalt blue, and let's come up here then, and it just gets a kind of a greeny blue, doesn't it? It kind of just all disappears into a greeny blue kind of a colour. And remember, we're going to have a lot of thick foliage covering this as well, so you don't have to be too perfect with all of this and too specific. So I think that's not bad. That's not bad at all. What I'm going to do is darken with some blue, some cobalt blue in this mix. I'm just going to darken some of the base down. In fact, this branch here, I just want to darken that ever so slightly. And one or two of the other branches, just to give them a little bit of definition. Okay. I may even take a little hint of burnt umber. And push a little burnt umber through here and there on some of them, okay? Okay, good. Not bad. So I'm going to take a little of the brown and I'm just going to strengthen some of the bushes off in the distance there, okay? Just, I want them to show off that little bit more. I'm going to just pull that down like that. And I might move over then and start doing some of these ones over here. So this now will take a lot of time, okay? It's just a matter of being patient. I'm making a nice dark green colour here now, a greeny kind of a grey, okay? Just for some of these. And in fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to my bigger brush. I'm going to take some of that colour. I'll take a little bit more blue and a hint of pink. And I'm going to suggest some of the bushes, okay? Look, just very lightly. Because it's full of undergrowth all in here. So I'm going to go right up. And I'm just barely touching my canvas as I'm doing this, okay? I want to allow those trees to sort of disappear up in there, into the canopy. And even these ones here, they can disappear as well. And it's just adding then to all the depth in the painting, okay? Now I've taken a little bit more blue, just over here. And I've come down slightly. And I'm going to then just taper this and soften it all the way up as if it's lots of bushes in the background disappearing off into the distance, okay? And it's just basically my aim of this is to just create texture on the canvas. That's all I'm doing. Texture, just think texture, okay? I'm going to add more blue, and more blue is going to make it even more, add more depth into the painting. So I'm using the soft bristles of this lovely brush then to just kind of taper it off up there. I'm then going to start adding hints of pink into this mix as it comes forward with a little hint of burnt umber. And that will just give me slightly warmer greys just for the foreground here. Okay, little here and a little there. And again, we will soften some of this in with our soft brush later. I'll go up here and I'll just sort of add some up here and let this disappear into the canopy whilst creating the same time, picking up some of this colour and creating some darker foliage. And it's all about getting the colours to sort of disappear into one another, you see? And even come down onto your tree trunk. And these soft little stubby brushes are fantastic for this kind of work because they give you that very random little feel, like individual little leaves. They're fantastic for that kind of work. Okay, that's not bad. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take a little cadmium red and sienna. What I'm going to do is just add a hint of that here and there, because that warm light is going to catch some of these trees and give it that warm kind of glow, almost like a warm glow. Okay, let's just pull one or two of those off. I'll take a bit more. Put a bit more on that. I'm going to take some sienna and put a hint of sienna with crimson on some of these. Now my next job is to take some burnt umber, and I'm going to mix some burnt umber into a mauve, okay? So I'm going to take burnt umber, a little crimson, and a little blue to create a nice warm mauve. And I'm going to just start putting in some trees off in the distance, like that, okay? And you can see there's lots of them there. They just go on and on and on. But I just want to create just an impression of all these trees in the distance, okay? Some of them are going to just disappear off into the sky. A couple like that, a couple of off in the distance, you see, just kind of popping up way, way off. Then you'll have one or two which are going to be really strong. Okay, I'll switch to my bigger brush for this, and I want to show you this now. Watch the lovely contrast we get now with this. I'm going to put some really dark trees up here. I'm going to take some burnt umber, some black, a little crimson, and a little cobalt blue. Now this is nice thick paint, okay? I want to go up here and get a real nice blacky one like that, look. And then twist your brush so it goes off up into a point. Now I need a little bit more blue in that. I'm going to do another one very similar. I'm going to cross over that one and let that disappear. And these are really nice, aren't they? And these really push everything else back into the distance. I'll put one at the back here. Like that, disappearing. Then I'll cut in front of that one again with some of these, okay? So isn't that a lovely contrast there now, just with those couple? Another one or two. Try not to make them all exactly the same, is what I would say. But you can see that there's a couple of them here, they kind of come out the very, very same way, don't they? Now let's switch to a smaller brush and get some darker colour in here. Plenty of turpentine, some blue and some black. Let me get my trusty little stick and let's start putting some nice little branches off of these. And you can spend a lot of time doing this as long as you want. I'm going to take my time doing this because, as I said, this is a two-part tutorial and I'm in no rush to get it finished today. So there's no panic. I can take my time. I know I can relax, take my time. My coffee is going cold, so I'll have to take a sip of coffee very soon. So just have a bit of fun, look, just put in lots of little branches, nice and squiggly. Some are light and some very dark. And it's no harm to add a little touch of burnt umber into them as well. And we can go up here, look. And that light against dark then really catches our eye, doesn't it? Okay, I'm going to come down here and make these slightly wider. Like that. And I'm going to just add a little shadow down here. Then what I'm going to do is take some of that colour with a little crimson. And I'm going to just set these down into the bush down here, okay? And let them sort of disappear down into the bush. So now, I want to create a little bit of mistiness in this side over here. So I'm cleaning this brush, just dry it on some dry tissue. And I'm going to go into some white, okay? And what I'm going to do is, in fact, I might take a little hint of cadmium red as well. Okay? White with cadmium red. And I want to go down here and I'm going to tap that colour in. And I'm going to soften that colour through what I just did to create just a kind of a misty feel. You see? And you can even go up through some of the branches as well. Look, just to cover some of them, giving it the impression of foliage and all that kind of thing. Now, let's stop for a moment to take a look. That's not bad. Not bad at all. Now, the next thing I want to do is start adding some green. I want to bring some green into the colour because you can see there's a bit of green coming in down here. And I want to simply take some cadmium yellow and mix it into that colour, that kind of dark grey colour. And I'm just going to go with the grey first. It's a kind of a muddy grey-green sort of a hue. Let me just fix my phone here. And then I'm going to slowly start adding more yellow into it. And a hint of sienna. So we're warming it ever so slightly. Okay. Now, let me just dampen the tip of my brush, pull some cadmium yellow down, and I'm going to take a hint of black and a hint of sienna. So a lot of this will be my undercoat, okay? That's all, my filling in kind of colour. And I will be putting lots of lights and darks then over this. Soften it through into some of your greys. And what I'm going to do then is take, so what I might do? I might do this thick kind of black tree here. It's a very rich colour, isn't it? I think I might do that, just to get that in. But before I do, I want to add, let me see now. I want to add a little bit of light to some of my greens here. Yeah, so I'm going to take a small brush, get some cadmium yellow, naples yellow, and some white. And I'm just going to start adding some light to that. Let me take a hint of blue. Because the sun is kind of coming through and it's catching some of the lights on this. And we'll have some dark greens then in just a moment. In fact, you know what? I will do some of the dark greens now. I go with phaylo blue, nice rich dark blue, some cadmium yellow, and some burnt umber, okay? That will give us a nice rich dark green. And I'm going to use that to create some of the darker shades of green. We get a hint more black into that. And this is all the early stages now, okay? Remember, it's the very early stages, just filling in. There'll be a lot more going over this very soon. I want to take some sienna into that. And I want to add some hints of sienna here and there. Little touches of sienna creeping through. Okay, I'm going to take a nice flat brush and I'm going to start adding some bright shades of yellow with that brush to corner of that brush. Just here and there, okay? Now, that'll do. I want to get my nice warm dark tree in just there. And I'm going to use some burnt umber, burnt sienna. I think I'll use those two colours first, with plenty of turpentine. And let's go and get this tree in. It starts around here, doesn't it? Let's just go around like that. It has a lovely kind of a twist on it, doesn't it? Up here. And because it's all wet into wet now, you see, the colours do kind of merge together ever so slightly, which is good. So I'm going to take some black and some crimson, and I'm going to just darken that as it comes up. I'm going to put that nice dark colour up there. And we want plenty of thinners in this, okay? But not too much. It's not going to be like a watercolour, but plenty of thinners to allow this to really flow off of the brush. So plenty of black. And let's bring one or two branches off of that, like that. And I'm going to darken the back end of it here, like so. I'll go up then and just allow some branches to sort of disappear off of the top of that. Now it is quite thick, isn't it, all the way up? And let's just leave this disappear. Okay? Now you could even put some black on its own if you want. Up there. And as it comes down, I'm going to add some sienna to the front here. Soften in some sienna. And then I'm going to take some cadmium yellow with a hint of cadmium red. And I'm going to mix a tiny amount of that just to catch the light, okay? Towards the bottom. So I'm going to move on to the next one. And again, I'm just going to take lots of sienna to begin with. I should probably use a slightly wider brush for this, but this one it's fine. It's fine just for now. Okay, then I'm going to clean my brush and go into some black with a hint of blue. Like so. Soften that down and go down the back here. Widen it as it comes down. And let's just pop a couple of random branches off of this, just to make it look unusual. Is that the word I'm looking for? Unusual. Something different. Okay, and it disappears again up into the canopy, way up in there. Now I'm going to add some burnt umber here and there, just thick paint on its own, and a little on that, and I might take some black and just introduce a little black here and there as well, okay?